Vanessa the Crafty Gemini. I post weekly videos right here on my YouTube channel, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make a sunglass case. Alright, so let's jump in and talk about the supplies you're going to need to make a case for your glasses. I'm using two 10-inch by 10-inch squares here that I had left over from a pack, this cotton and steel collection here. And this is the perfect size because we're actually going to trim it down from this size. So if you have some orphan squares from these 10-inch squares that you can buy, then go ahead and grab two of those. One fabric will be for the outer, the other one for the lining. And then what's going to give it its body is this Interform Plus, which you guys know that I love to use. It's a double-sided fusible product that has like foam on the inside, and it just gives it a really good body for this type of a project. So you're going to need a rectangle of that measures 8 inches by 7 inches. So the first thing we need to do is trim down our fabric pieces. Since mine are 10 by 10, I'm going to trim them down to 8 inches by 9 inches, all right? And I'm just saving myself a step here, just going to stack them up one on top of the other. That way I can cut through both layers at the same time. So we'll cut it at 8 in one direction. So we're basically trimming off 2 inches off one side, and then I'm going to turn it over and trim 1 inch off the other side as well. So this should be 9. Alright, so two rectangles that measure 8 inches by 9 inches is what we start off with. Now let's get our ironing board and iron. And at this point it doesn't matter if you're like me and sometimes you can't really decide which fabric you want to be your lining. You still have time to decide that. So first just grab one of the pieces of the fabric and lay it with the pretty side facing down. We're going to take our Interform Plus and place it pretty much centered all the way around. Because this measures an inch shorter, you should have about a 1/2 inch seam allowance on all 4 sides of the Interform Plus, alright? Once it looks like it's pretty much centered, I'm going to hold it with my fingers, try not to let it move too much, and just flip it because we want to press this from the fabric side. Definitely don't want to press it from the other side because the product is fusible on both sides, alright? So I'm just fusing this into place. Alright? And notice it doesn't fuse on the opposite side, okay? So just fuse one side to it. Now we're going to take our other fabric and lay it with the pretty sides touching, one on top of the other. And you can put some pins if you want to at this point. Then we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to stitch around all 4 sides. But first, we definitely want to make sure that we're going to leave an opening. I'll tell you where I recommend that you leave that opening. I like to leave it on one of the short sides. So let me just put one more pin here so nothing moves on me. Alright, and you notice it's a rectangle, so we have 2 long sides and 2 short sides. On one of the short sides is where I like to leave my opening, so I'm going to leave it right here. Meaning we're going to start on one end of that opening, backstitch, you're going to pivot on all your corners and come all the way around and stop on the other end and backstitch there as well. Alright, let's get our sewing machine ready. And I'm just using a basic straight stitch, again using that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're not actually going to be stitching through the foam at this point, okay? Coming around on the end, so let me backstitch here. Alright, so now let's grab our rotary cutter and we're just going to trim away the corners so we can reduce some of that bulk that we get on the sides. So just shave them close at an angle, making sure that you don't cut into your stitches because you're going to have to restitch it if you do. Alright, now we can reach into our opening and we're going to flip the whole thing right side out. Make sure that you reach into the corners and flip. Now, because we haven't stitched through the foam, it may peel up a little bit on you, may move on you, but don't worry because it's usually will stay there right in place and you'll be able to fix it once you get the whole thing flipped. Okay? And then I just go back in and take my time poking out all those corners. At this point, you can use a chopstick if you want to help you poke out those corners out. Alright, let's grab our ironing board and iron again. We're going to give this a good press. Now remember, the product is fusible on both sides, so the lining is not yet fused, but now we're going to hit it with the iron so it will fuse it fine. I'm going to come in here to where the opening is, and I just put my pointer finger and just kind of tug on the ends of that opening, and the seam allowance will roll right inside for me easily. And then go ahead and give it a good press so you fuse everything down. All right, so at this point, you need to decide which side you want to be your lining, okay? So we're not going to top stitch where the opening is because that'll get caught up in a seam allowance in a little bit. But let me show you. You need to decide now which you want to be your lining or the outside, like which fabric is going to be which. But actually, before we do that, let's quickly make the little tab right here. And for that, you can use any of the prints that you use. What I like is that since we trimmed down these 10" by 10" squares, I have strips here that I can still use to make my tab. So I think I'm going to go with this navy fabric for the outer, and I'm going to make the tab out of the lining fabric. So for this, what you need to do is cut out a piece that measures 2 inches, which this does already, and you want it to be 4 inches the other way. So 2 inches by 4 inches. Then grab your iron and ironing board, and let's quickly make a little tab. You're going to lay this with the pretty side of the fabric facing down, fold it in half, give it a press so you create a crease down the center, and then you're going to open it up and bring in the edges right towards that center crease line and give it another press. Then refold it on the initial fold, press it again, and your strap is done. All you need to do is top stitch down the folded side so it holds it together. So I'll do that real quick. All right, and there's our little loop. So now we've decided which I want to be the outer, which is going to be this side. And so I need to sandwich it in there. All right, so you're going to flip your loop so that the raw edges are now going towards the outside of the seam. So let me show you how this is going to look. You need to orient the rectangle so that the long ways is going horizontally in front of you because it's going to be folded up like this. If you do it like this, it's going to be taller, but it's going to be narrower as well, okay? So make sure that you orient it that way with the longer side going horizontally in front of you, and you're going to fold it across this vertical fold here. So a little bit of a ways from the top. I kind of like to look first of all and see which end looks better. This looks like a more crisp edge to be the top of it. And the top part, meaning this part, where is the opening going to be for the sunglasses? Okay, like here. You see this line of top stitching that I did around here? That's what I'm going to do now. So I've selected this to be my top part where the opening is going to be. So let's top stitch it first. And you're just staying real close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away or so. So now we know that's our top edge. It's been top stitched. Our sunglass case is going to be like this. So we want to fold our loop and put it so that the raw edges are matching the side. The loop should be going in towards the center of the case. And I just place it about 1 inch or 1.25 inches away from the top edge. You can put it anywhere you want to. I'm just going to fold it and put it right there. I usually like to have this edge stick out a little bit just so when I stitch this down I can make sure I'm catching all the layers, alright? Put a couple pins. Actually, let me grab my clips. For bulkier fabrics, it's better to use these Wonder Clips. It's just a little easier. And I'm matching up the sides here, all the way down this side and along this bottom part. So remember, the top stitch part is your opening. We're now going to stitch down one side and the other way. So a big backwards L. Back stitch at the beginning here and back stitch at the end down here. Again, straight stitch. Now this is quite bulky, but the foam is really lightweight, so it stitches up like a dream. But I still like to go ahead and up or increase my stitch length a little bit more since we're going through a bunch of layers. If you don't have a heavy duty machine, just go ahead and take your time and just make sure you're using about a 90-14 needle in your machine and you should be fine. Sometimes I go back and back stitch right where the tab is just to give it some security right there. I'm pivoting here when I get to the bottom corner. And back stitch at the end as well. Now this part is fun. This is the big reveal. You're going to reach in here. It's a little bit tight, but I like it like that. That way the sunglasses won't really just slip out. So just take your time and flip the whole thing right side out. Again, grab that iron and ironing board. You know I love to press everything pretty much after every seam that I sew. And if you're wondering about my mini ironing board here, definitely you can click right here and this graphic will take you to that video tutorial because I actually made this myself and it's a super easy project to make as well. All right, so there it is. Oh, I'm loving this fabric. This is Mochi, I think by Rashida Coleman Hale for Cotton and Steel. Super cute color combinations, I love it. And so here it is. Our sunglass case is complete. I have some sunglasses here just to show you how it works. Cute and simple. So that's it for this video tutorial. I hope you all enjoyed learning how to make this cute and easy sunglasses case. Definitely give the project a try, and if you do, remember to upload pictures and tag me on them. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and even Instagram. Definitely use the hashtag CraftyGemini so that I can see what you're working on. I love to see what you guys are making from my tutorials. Now remember, there's always a link in the description box below where you can find all the materials that I use to create this project in this video. Now if you enjoyed the video tutorial, definitely make sure you hit it with that thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't forget to click that subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.